Yeah, you should. Okay, now you're being recorded.
Okay, firstly I'd like to thank everybody for the serious effort of sticking around for the next half hour. That my intention is that it's only going to take half an hour.
If you take longer than that, we throw soup at you.
What?
If you take longer, we throw soup at you.
I've got no chance.
You've got
Anyway.
no what?
Chance.
Anyway, my name is Yitzchak Stein. Welcome to my first Essentials class. I'd like to dedicate this class to my mother. She's a teacher in South Africa. She's been teaching for longer than I've actually been present in this world. Teaching black people, which is not actually very, very geschmack because, you know, they don't appreciate her as much as I do. So this is really a debut to her. I'm serious, it's a debut to her. I really appreciate the endless effort that she puts into her job, which gives me the chizuk to put effort into what I feel is a higher cause of kiruv. So being that this you have to get the recorder to record that also. Anyway, okay, so as you can hear, I'm South African, so when I get up here, you know, I've got a bit of a complex about public speaking. That's because I know exactly what you guys are thinking. Ooh, he's South African. He doesn't pronounce vowels. Well, you laughed at that joke again. Said it a couple of weeks ago, and they also laughed. Okay, anyway, so humanoids, we're exceptionally complex. You know, we're humanoids. You know, I'm South African, that guy's Canadian. He looks a bit Martian, but that's okay as long as I'm not taking over the world. Okay, so funny question, yeah? No, I'm being serious. Don't stop recording. Okay, so this is a question I want to ask you. Imagine that you, a humanoid, and the hero of your choice, that's one thing we all have in common, you know, that we love our heroes. Imagine you and the hero of your choice are stuck in a desert, right? So it's you and the hero of your choice stuck in a desert, and only one of you have the opportunity to come out alive. Who are you going to choose?
Self.
I hope you don't need to think too long.
I would definitely get my hero of my choice.
Alright, so he's saying that because he's a conspiracy guy theory, but most of us are going to choose ourselves. That's because we all appreciate our lives. We all value our lives at the top. But now let's get a bit serious. Imagine that it's you and chas v'shalom your grandfather or your daughter or your one and only beloved wife stuck in that desert. Are you going to allow the opportunity to get out? I mean, we all consider chas v'shalom, you know, giving up our lives for our loved one. So as much as we have a value for life, we also got a value for the love of the dear one to us. Okay, so imagine you're in that desert, it's a Syrian desert, and you meet the one and only ISIS, you know, and they say to you that you've now got the opportunity for the next 4 hours of your life to behead innocent women and children, you know, or give up your life. What would you choose then? Hope you're not thinking too long.
What, you're gonna die in 4 hours?
Sorry, what's us not speaking English? I meant to be nice to you because we need to Asia. The question is, would you willingly save your life by beheading, you know, innocent woman?
Oh, that's the question.
Yeah, that's the question. Would you do that?
I wouldn't be.
That's
She's good looking. She's good looking.
That's because
Your wife won
that's because as much as we value our love and life, that we would never forsake something that we believe is immoral. We would even be willing to give up the experience of our loved ones and the experience of living our life. We would even give it up for not going back on one of our morals. We're human beings. What if these ISIS men, you know, they're nuts, they say you don't need to behead anybody. In fact, you don't need to murder anybody, you don't need to do anything violent in your life. The only thing you have to do is you have to convert to Islam. You know, believe in the Quran, believe what they're doing here in Muslim, what they're doing is correct, you know, get into it. Would you give up your beliefs, not having to hurt anyone, just to accept Islam, to save your life? So, I don't know about you, but many people would actually give up their life just for their beliefs. That's the complexity of a human being. We've got the complexity of our lives, of the value of our life, love, faith, morals, and beliefs. So I think that when it comes to me personally, what I connect with in my Judaism is the fact that you stop and you think about the depth of a human being, and you realize there's something amazing going on here. We've got all these energies that want to push us in different directions, and sometimes they even can contradict one another. We're willing to hurt our loved ones and have arguments, and there's so much going on in our lives, and we just stop and think we're exceptional. Human beings are exceptional. So we've got two options. Either we can accept that we really are, really amazing people, and we can accept that we've got this higher meaning, or we can, like many scientists or philosophers have said, we're just another complex robot. We're a bit more cooler than, kangaroos in Australia. Sorry, Shmuley. But there's nothing much more complex to us than any other being. Do any of us really think like that? Do the scientists, the philosophers, do they really think like that themselves? I'd even venture to say they don't. I can't imagine even people like Descartes, who said, we're a mere body. I don't believe he could even think about himself that he's a, what?
He didn't say that, he said, I think, therefore
What
I
did
am.
he say? I think, therefore I am.
Yeah, how's that related to I am a mere body?
What? Okay, fine.
It's possible to say more than one thing.
Oh, it could be he said more than one thing, yeah.
No, he said, I think
Throwing
therefore I
it out
am,
there.
but did he take it to a deeper meaning? Did he recognize the spirit, the soul? Anyway, so, thank you. Somebody reminded me to calm down. So this is what I want to do for the next few minutes. I want to come to the realization that, if somebody is out there really thinking that he's nothing less than a robot, I want to prove to that guy that he's definitely not. You just stop and think about your life, and you realize there's so much going on behind the scenes, and how deep we are, that we can't just regard ourselves as just another round of evolution. I was thinking a few ways we can connect with this idea. Has anybody been to South Africa?
No.
Yeah. Shmuley, have you been to safari?
Yeah.
No experience. Tell us about your experiences.
It was amazing. I was in Kruger National Park for 4 days.
Wow.
I mean, to give like an idea, I took I think 400 pictures,
Yeah.
and I was missing my camera for a day.
400 pictures of animals specifically, or
And the sun,
did you see any lions or any other predators?
lionesses, yeah.
Lionesses. Did you see them make any attacks?
No.
No? Okay, so there are a lot of tourists that come to South Africa to go on the safari park, the Kruger National Park, in order to see the big lion, attacking that buck. Did any of those tourists ever scream immoral outrage?
I believe.
They
No,
didn't.
probably
The
so.
fact is
They
didn't.
come because
The fact is they didn't.
They're upset
yeah.
at the chickens, that were taken
They're not the tourists in South Africa.
Okay, so the question is why didn't they scream, immoral outrage? The poor buck who's about 3 million times smaller than the lion. He just got slaughtered to death by the thing. No one really felt too bad for that buck. On a moral level. Why is that? Because we don't associate morality with animals. That's just the life, like the life of animals. Like we say, this is the part that I become a bit racist, but you can take the black out of the jungle, but you can't take the jungle out of the black, It's just the way it is there, That's the morality that is there. Yet, when it comes to human beings, if somebody sees somebody merely stealing something, he's going to go nuts, Because, we understand that by us there's a higher meaning, there's more significance to what we do in life. That's one raya, one proof that I have that, we certainly do have a more meaningful and elevated existence. And there's a million other rayas, For example, evolution. They want to say that where do our morals, where do our complexities come from? It's just evolution at play, making us psychologically keep on moving, keep on going. But how does evolution explain the person who's going to give up his life for his beliefs? Let's even talk about, something crazy like foreign beliefs. Why would a person give up his life for those beliefs? According to evolution, we just, like any other animal, striving to survive. So surely, sometimes we find our emotions and our feelings going against our will to keep on surviving. I think that's in my simple understanding, that's the easiest way to refute evolution as being the basis for our moral developments and understanding. Another example I thought of is that, you know, unfortunately we do meet people that are addicted, you know, they get addicted to drugs, or they get addicted to the bottle, you know, and they decide to jump off, you know, some very high bridges in England. What happened to those people? What happened to them? Why did they actually like reach such a level of wanting to commit suicide, you know, or going to jail for petty things? You know, where was their meaningful life? What happened to them? Any suggestions?
It would
They block
ran
it
out of
out,
money.
I guess.
But why did they? You know, what happened that they led their life to such
That's
a
what the
point?
brewer says. The good news is you're going to die one day. He wants to bring some good news into his life.
Yeah, but so I think that's the most accurate way of answering the question. They're going to die one day. That's what they were going for. They lost the significance in their life. They lost the meaning in their life. All they could see in front of them was to strive for death, because it's not worth it anymore. So I think that's another way that we can really associate with the meaning that we pertain to our lives, because we find people that lose that meaning and drive for their life, and what happens to them? They decide to kill themselves, you know. So it's terrible. Yeah. So I think that's another way that we can connect with the fact that we're not mere robots. We definitely do have a higher meaning. Sure, like when I wrote this out, I had like a million reasons, and now like standing in front of all these faces. Like,
Million reasons of what?
how many more minutes do we have?
Ask us for reasons.
What?
10 minutes.
Ask us
No,
for
the
reasons.
event. Well,
15 minutes.
Yeah, 5
15
minutes.
minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ask us for
So
reasons.
let's move on. Okay, so we all believe now that we actually exist. You know, we shouldn't take these philosophers for, you know, traditionally we do exist. Yeah, we do have a higher meaning. Okay, so now I don't want to actually prove now that necessarily the Torah's way of us living life is necessarily true. You know, to prove that, that's probably regarded as a class by itself. I'm not here right now to give you the evidence. But you know what, even better than the evidence proving that the Torah is true, I think is at least understanding the motivation in what we're meant to be doing when we say we want to, you know, lead a Torah life or lead a religious life. What's the motivation behind somebody saying that? I think it's such a good question to ask, because we find, I think Rav Berger told us this, that the late Rosh Hashiva, Rav Noach Weinberg, he became so perfect at bringing out the proofs that God exists and that the Neshama exists. He became so perfect at it that at one stage somebody actually went up to him and said, you know, Rabbi, I'm a secular Jew and I'm loving my life, but if you can prove to me that there is actually a God, so I'm actually, you know, I'll go with it. So, you know, obviously the guy stood no chance, and Rav Noach Weinberg, he proved to him that there was a God. That's the story. A few years later, Rav Noach Weinberg's at a bris, and he happens to notice one of the guests there is this guy. So, you know, he looks like a religious Jew now, you know. Great, it worked out. Let me go up to him and say Shalom Aleichem and whatever. So he goes up to him and he pats him on the back to get his attention, and the guy doesn't want to look at him. So it's like Rav Noach's thinking, you know, maybe I'm confused, maybe it wasn't actually the guy that I met. And then what turns out is this guy responds to Rav Noach that, you know, you correctly do remember me. I was that guy. But you know, since that meeting that we had, you've destroyed my life, because until now I was leading a life of, like we say, ignorance is bliss. You know, until then, you know, I was living a high life. You know, now I have to come to accept that there's a God, and I have to live with responsibility. When Rav Noach heard that from him, he apparently, you know, he shut down for a minute. He was like, oh my gosh, this is not the message I wanted to give that guy, because ultimately, the Torah's message and the Jewish message is not a message of we got this responsibility to be Jewish. Our motivation for keeping it from is not to be Jewish. It's not like we got this responsibility. We recognize that our point in pursuing the mitzvahs and pursuing our understanding of the Torah and ultimately keeping the mitzvahs is really that we are now living life pertaining high meaning to our beliefs and to our morals and to our daily simple things that we do in life. We're pertaining much higher meaning to that. So every Frum Jew that's a healthy Frum Jew is obviously leading a Jewish life based with this with this fundamental, that the things that he's doing is not because he has to serve God. It's exactly the opposite. God gave us the opportunity of this world in order to take our complex being and connect it with a higher meaning, and through that higher meaning we then connect with much more significance and with netzach, eternity. And we see that, the first time an irreligious Jew experiences Shabbos, it's the most amazing thing. And even by us, when we get to see another taste of Shabbos by somebody else's house, we want to bring that into ourselves. That's because Judaism is an experiential experience. That's really why we're keeping it Jewish, because when we experience a Shabbos, we're taking in something that in itself is a high meaning. It's not like because it's correct, it's because the Shabbos itself is significant to us. So too when we're learning the Beis Medrash and we think of something and all of a sudden things just are that much clearer. We're connecting with that clarity through the Torah. There's no way to really put that into words. It's experiential. We're actually connecting to something much higher than us, and that gives us much more meaning. So ultimately, before we even prove that the Torah exists, we have to realize what we're doing when we commit to Judaism. We're committing to ourselves. That's why I sent Avinam a text message last night saying that the name of the shir is love, life, and meaning, Torah, because I think that's ultimately what the level we have to come to. That the reason that we're keeping the Torah is because it's about our love, it's about our life, it's about our meaning, it's for us. Once we come to that level of living life to the fullest, so then we're definitely connecting to God. So through ourselves, we get to this realization that God indeed does exist. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you.